Today, today's message was given to us in 2003, March 14th on a Friday. It was a special dawn service for uh, Passion Week, and this message was given to us by Reverend Abraham Park. The title is A Life of Consecration. Daniel chapter 1 verses 11 through 21. I will read the verse for you. But Daniel said to the overseer, whom the commander of the officials had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days, and let us be given some vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be observed in your presence, and the appearance of our youths who are eating the king's choice food, and deal with your servants according to what you see. So he listened to them, and in this manner, and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, their appearance seemed better, and they were fatter than all the youths who had been eating the king's choice food. So the overseer continued to withhold their choice food and the wine they were to drink, and kept giving them vegetables. As for these four youths, God gave them knowledge and intelligence in every branch of literature and wisdom. Daniel even understood all kinds of visions and dreams. Then at the end of the days which the king had specified for presenting them, the commander of the officials presented them before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king talked with them, and out of them all not one was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's personal service. As for their every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king consulted them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and conjurers who were in his realm. And Daniel continued until the first years of Cyrus the king. And this is the word of the Lord. Amen. I pray that you may receive a great blessing today.
Please write down the title. The Secret to Living a Consecrated Life. We read more than half of the chapter 1 in Daniel. Please write down 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 6 through 7. We receive fiery trials and tests, but God says in 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 6 through 7, God says that you should instead be grateful to God because the spirit of glory and incredible blessings will come. As I said yesterday, living a consecrated life involves self-control in every aspect of our lives, our hearts, our thoughts, our hearing, our seeing, and our actions. What should I do if other person feels bad because I said this? That's why I won't say anything. So there is patience in hope. There's patience. And there is a self-control in patience. And what did Paul say? Abstain from every form of evil. Every form of evil. Anything that looks or resemble evil. This is recorded in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 22. First, let us realize, see, and believe. Let us realize, see, and believe. These three. When you realize something, then you are able to see, and then you can believe it. Please write down Joshua chapter 1, verses 5 through 7, and then Daniel chapter 2, verse 9. The chief of eunuch requested per the king's strict command. And as I've said several times, Daniel refused the king's choice food so as not to defile himself. So he declined, and he cannot but worry, say, oh, but what's going to happen now? And now, but who is behind Daniel's faith? Who is backing him up? God is. Even if Daniel refused The king's chief of staff, or the head of the eunuch, wouldn't just accept what Daniel said, what he proposed. Also, after Daniel refused, because Daniel is also human, of course, he was determined, if I die, I will die. But since God was behind Daniel's faith, what did God give to the chief eunuch without Daniel's knowledge? God gave him grace so that when Daniel said, I won't eat it, those words sounded good to his ears and heart. Did Daniel know about this? We only know about Daniel saying, I won't eat. But it was God who, behind Daniel's faith, had already given the special grace to the chief eunuch without Daniel knowing. So Daniel's words didn't sound contemptible to him, and he accepted them favorably. He could have said, You are a mere captive, and you refuse the king's favor. So God gave him this grace to keep him calm and peaceful. Let's read Daniel chapter 1, verse 9. So you see, there are times when we are misunderstood in our daily lives. How can this person do this to me when I did him so much favor? We'll see about this. But at times like that, may we remember Daniel chapter 1, verse 9. See, so God thought about this and said, but that's not what it means. So there could be misunderstanding. So God wrote Daniel chapter 1 verse 9 to remind us that I was behind it and granted favor in the sight of the official. See, so we will know that God will give favor. That's why we will not lose our temper or become furious even for a moment. So like Cain, since he saw that he was not accepted, Cain thought, this is all because of my little brother, right? So God said to Cain, why has your face fallen? Sin is crouching at your door. It's Cain's heart. So the moment he heard these words, he should have repented instantly, but do people do that? So how blessed are we? This morning, we can now remember Daniel chapter 1 verse 9 and say, yes, surely God granted me his favor. So let's read Daniel chapter 1 verse 9. Now God granted Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the commander of the officials. Please look, God was behind him. It's Daniel who spoke, but God granted Daniel favor and compassion in the sight of the official. Daniel was the one who said, but did he know that God was behind him? And God made the chief official gracious to him. Write this down. Secret to consecration is grace and compassion. As written in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 10 and Colossians chapter 1 verse 10. When we obey the word, God goes before us and arranges everything first without us knowing. And the result of consecrated living, Daniel chapter 1 verse 15, verse 21, and Matthew 24 verse 13. Those who endure to the end will be saved. Then a change of name. I couldn't tell you yesterday because of the time, but his name was changed. The name of the people of Israel contains God's providence of salvation, as the meaning of the name suggests. And God upholds and works through that person just as the meaning of his name. Even among our Korean names, there's reputation. So the name reflects one's reputation, and it also has a very special meanings. So even those people who say there is no God, when they give birth to their children and name them, they never put meanings in their names, such as a hell or destruction or sudden death. All parents want their children to live up to their names. The Israelites do not have last names, they only have first names. Since there is only one father and one mother, they have no surname, just a first name. Say there's only one father and one mother, and that's Adam and Eve. That's why they don't have surname, they only have the first name. But even that name was stolen and taken away, and they were given names for the idols and false gods. So please write this down. Daniel, it actually means God is my judge. So you see, this is how his name was consecrated. But this consecrated name was trampled upon and thrown away. Next, Hananiah means Yahweh is gracious. What a wonderful name this is. Since my name says God is gracious, I'm going to receive grace today. So, to the end of the world of sin and instill God's will, their parents gave him such a special name, but they took this name away. Third, Mishael. It means who is of God or who belongs to God. Fourth, Azariah. Azariah, the Yahweh helps. Yahweh helps. In other words, God helps. Yahweh helps. The Lord helps. God wanted to work through that name and his providence of salvation, but the Babylonians slashed their names with knife, threw them away, instead named him of the kingdom of Babylon. Completely robbing him of his identity. What a scary policy this is. You see, the devils wanted to erase God from them completely. So Daniel and Daniel's three friends had names with meanings such as glory to God, thanks to God, praise to God, the names that call for God's unceasing grace for his will. But the Babylonians stripped their names off of them and replaced them with this demonic names for false gods. So how astounding is this? This is to make them forget their identity and instead serve their idols. So write this down, please. Belteshazzar. Daniel's name is Belshazzar. Bel is the name of a false god, demon, a name of idol. So it means Bel will protect his life. And in parentheses, the keeper of hidden treasures. The keeper of hidden treasures. Shadrach. Worshipper of the moon god. The moon god. They say the moon is God. So it means he who worships the moon god. Then Meshach. Meshach. They changed Mishael to Meshach, which means he who sacrifices himself to the goddess. Is it this a prostitute? He who sacrifices himself to the goddess. And lastly, fourth, Abednego. Abednego means a slave of Nabu, a slave of Nabu, the son of Marduk, which is the highest main god of Babylon. So, a slave of Nabu, the son of Marduk, the highest god of Babylon. Or it means a slave of bright fire. You see, all these names meant severe humiliation and defamation. So humiliating. Now, next, please write this down carefully. Concerning Daniel's consecrated life, in Daniel's consecrated life, yesterday I spoke about Daniel's faith and character. Today, I'll to talk about Daniel's spirit of cooperation. Daniel's spirit of cooperation. He had the spirit of selflessly working together with fellow human beings. He had the spirit of selflessly working together with his fellow human beings. And he also had a spirit of cultivating people. The spirit of cultivating people. Daniel chapter 1 verse 12, chapter 2 verse 17, and chapter 2 verse 49. And he also had this complete faithfulness in responsibilities and tasks. So, our pastors, elders, eldresses, and deacons, please listen. Whenever you pray, don't just pray, Lord, help me to live a holy life like Daniel, but please understand the word given to you carefully. Responsibility for both our male and female saints. Do you feel this sense of responsibility? We have received duty from God. If you don't have a sense of responsibility, we can compare it to cooking rice. You would just put rice in a pot and just heat it. That's it. You would not care whether it burns or not. But if you have a sense of responsibility, you make sure from start to finish. In other words, put rice in the pot, turn on the heat, and then you will adjust the heat and simmer it. And oh yeah, I will let it simmer for 10 minutes. See, you make sure from start to finish, but without a sense of responsibility, you just pretend to be working. You just pretend. Tasks. The task that was entrusted to me, and you are very faithful to the tasks entrusted to you. That's what responsibility is. So please write this down. He was so thorough in his tasks to the point that even his enemies recognized it. He was very responsible and very thorough in his tasks to the point that even his enemies recognized it. His faithfulness, his responsibility. That's in Daniel chapter 1 verse 4, chapter 5 verse 12, chapter 6 verse 4 and 22. And next, Daniel had pleasant personality. Pleasant personality. Daniel had a pleasant personality such that he was honored by people and even by God. He had this distinguished character recognized by people. What a precious word. Daniel chapter 1, verse 4 and 9, chapter 2, verse 46, chapter 5, verse 13 through 14. Such a precious word. At Daniel chapter 6, verse 2 and 3, verse 28. Daniel chapter 9, verse 23, chapter 10, verses 11 and 19. And next, Daniel had this unchanging, consistent humility. Please write. Daniel was always humble before God and people, regardless of whether one's position was high or low. He was the same, humble to everybody. Whether it was before God or before people, he was always humble. That's in Daniel chapter 2, verse 19 through 23, verse 30, chapter 9, verse 5, and verse 19, and chapter 10, verse 12. Please write it down. Okay, Daniel chapter 2, verse 19 through 23, verse 30, chapter 9, verse 5 and 19, chapter 10, verse 12. Indeed, Daniel, whether someone was watching him or not, Daniel was always humble before God. His conscience was always alive before God, so automatically he was humble before men. Please don't forget that. The opposite of humility is arrogance or pride. Pride leads to destruction and fall. How scary is this? So please don't forget that humility is a big part of a consecrated life. Now then, fifth, diligence and gentleness. Diligence and gentleness. He never hesitated to do what he thought was right. If he thought something was God's will and it was the right thing to do, then he moved forward powerfully like an engine locomotive. He never hesitated. He never worried about what other people would think of him. It was a strong and bold faith capable of laying down even his own life. So surely as I read the Bible last night and prepared this message, I bowed my head in prayer. Wow, he was extraordinary for what he considered right. But do we do that? We think again, oh, would this be okay? What if someone misunderstands? Well, maybe it's not my business. Okay, let's stop here. For whatever he thought was right, though, Daniel did it without hesitation. He just did it. And this is part of a consecrated life. Separating from evil to stand in God's side. This is altogether holiness, that's right. But going deep into the Word, going deep inside into holiness, and you'll find that this was part of consecrated life. So how precious is this? To achieve the purpose of God's will, he pushed forward. He took off and kept going. He pushed forward and start and keep going. Please write down Daniel chapter 1, verse 12. Chapter 8, verse 15. Chapter 9, verse 3, 16, and 19. And Daniel chapter 12, verse 8. Next, a proactive mindset full of self-confidence. Proactive mindset full of confidence. With the conviction that he was thoroughly following God's will, Daniel worked very proactively. Dear saints, are we like that? Do we really actively believe in God and follow God's will? He checked himself and he made it sure. That is why he could work very actively. He was very proactive. There was nothing untidy about his attitude or behavior in life. No untidiness in his life. When the ladies trim the bean sprouts, we pick up even a tiny one that dropped and put it back into the bowl, right? Isn't that how you live? So please do the same in your life of faith in God. How amazing was Daniel? Write this down. Daniel chapter 2, verse 14 through 16, chapter 6, verse 10, chapter 5, verse 13 and 17. Yes, separating from evil and belonging to goodness is consecration. That is right. However, when you unwrap the wrapping cloth, you'll find something deep like this inside. So this morning, let us again be faithful and loyal to God given positions and tasks with a deep sense of responsibility. If you do this, then you will receive it all back and more. So if you save $10, and you will save $10 and gain the interest, right? So if I save $1,000, then I'll receive $1,000 back plus interest, right? So you won't lose any, you won't see any loss. Our God is greater than all. He is the richest of all, who will certainly never take ours away. Once God gave you a task, He will never turn away or neglect you. Never. How good is our God? He said, I'll repay you according to what you believe and what you sow. So please believe. Today, as we tap deep into what's inside a consecrated life, we saw a spirit of cooperation. So if I don't feel like to cooperate, then we realize, I haven't received the grace of consecration. I am so doomed. I am such a fool. I have been chanting holiness and holiness all this time, but let us live a consecrated life just as we've learned from the word, okay? So we can work accordingly and reap much more than what you put in. May this blessing be upon Pyongyang Church and all the saints, and I bless you in the name of the Lord.
We will end it here today. Let us all give glory and honor to God.